Let's talk about the Giants versus Commanders. Daniel Jones inactive yet again. Cornerback Adoree Jackson out. Andrew Thomas out. Evan Neal out. Matt Parrott out. John Michael Schmitz out. Jordan Riley out. So yeah, offense really banged up. I don't know that the confidence level was crazy high. I think it was, I'll say this. A lot of people penciled this in as a win. And I was like, whoa, not so fast, because the Commanders are kind of like a wild card. It's like, okay, they get blown up with the Bills. Like we mentioned last week, they get blown up with the Bills, but then they take the Eagles into overtime and almost beat them in Philadelphia. Which Commanders team are we going to get? And we got a pretty awful Commanders team. The 14 points were the fewest the Giants have scored in a victory since they defeated Philadelphia 13-7 on November 8th, 2021. 11 of Daboll's 12 victories were all one-score games decided by 8 or fewer points. Giants are 7-1 under Daboll when holding their opponents to less than 20 points. The only loss was in Buffalo. So some are saying that should have been a win. I agree. It should have been a win. If it's a win, then we're now 3-4. Ugh, god dang. But the defense, the Giants haven't allowed a first half touchdown the last 2 weeks against two teams that average over 20 points a game. So the defense is on the up and up. This is probably the best game the defense has played this year and in a very, very long time. And that's coming off a game where I basically said the same thing. So the defense is like clicking. Now, seeing that Buffalo lost to New England, yikes. Maybe Buffalo is not as good as we thought they were. So it kind of takes away from that performance. But still, I think it's, they're putting up like really great numbers back-to-back weeks. And so that's encouraging, at least. We led at halftime 14-0. 1 week after we led at the end of the second quarter in Buffalo 6-0. It was the first time the Giants held their opponent scoreless in the first half of consecutive games since 2005. October 30th, November 6th. Whoa, same week. When we led Washington 19-0 and San Francisco 10-0. Commanders converted just 1 of 15 third down opportunities. And that's the first time the Giants' opponent succeeded just once since Washington. There's a bunch of those stats like this. Like, this is the last time this happened was against Washington. It's like, yeah, we might have the number. We might always count on that. For the third time in the last 4 weeks, the Giants held their opponents to under 300 yards of total offense. So, obviously the Miami game got out of hand, but Seattle was a pretty decent effort I know it was 24-3 is the final score, but 7 of those points isn't on the defense. And they also, the offense, I think it was after the Daniel Jones fumble, the Seattle was set up on the 10. So it's like take another 7 away, I would think. So it's 10 points, 14 points. 3 of the past 4 weeks. Yeah, we're looking pretty good on defensively. The Washington's 273 total yards were the second fewest allowed by the Giants this season, with Dallas, the season opener, gaining only 265, which, yeah, they didn't really have to do much because our offense and special team was just hand delivering points to Dallas. Just like, hey, welcome to the 2023 season. Welcome to MetLife. Would you like some points? Commanders 76 rushing yards were the fewest allowed by the Giants defense in a regular season game under Daboll and Wink Martindale. The previous low was 83 yards. Christmas Eve in Minnesota. And then the Vikings also rushed for 61 yards in the wild card game. Washington's 14 first downs were the second fewest by a Giants opponent in 2023 when Seattle had 13 on October 2nd. Another game we probably should have won. God damn, we could be 4-3 right now, huh? Seattle, a winnable game. I know the final score doesn't say it, but Buffalo, a winnable game. Giants had 5 sacks. Entering Sunday, it was the lowest in the league, the fewest in the league, and they recorded 6 sacks. 5 in the first half, tying their highest total under Daboll. They had 6 in a win against the Bears last October when they were also wearing the legacy uniform. I'm seeing a lot of people wanting to go back to the legacy uniforms, and it's hard to argue. A lot of times people throw out uniforms like, oh, this is fresh, this is clean, this looks drip and da-da-da swag. And I'm like, yeah, but we legitimately suck. Like, our records are awful in the red jerseys. We've never won in the red jerseys. In the color rush, like, we've never won in the color rush. Like, maybe let's just pause on that. But the home legacy uniforms, we typically win in. So let's bring it back. The only team that has allowed more sacks than the Giants are the Commanders. So or were the Commanders. So it's it's nice, for sure nice that the defense has awakened and has put on a performance, and the pass rush appears to be back. But it is against Washington, who has a worse offensive line than us somehow. I don't know how that's possible. Dexter Lawrence, Sexy Dexy, tied his career high with 2 sacks for losses, totaling 17.5 yards. He had 1 solo and 2 half sacks. He also had 2 sacks against the Bears last season. Dexter Lawrence generated team high 8 pressures against the Commanders, his most pressures in a game since week 10 of 2022. And Lawrence was double teamed at his lowest rate this season at only 40.5%, which that's a bit of an oversight on Washington's part. 4 of 8 pressures came against center Nick Gates on 29 matchups. Yeah, Nick Gates didn't look great. So maybe we are better off without him. Although I still think I would want him on the team considering our woes along the offensive front. Kayvon Thibodeau had 1.5 sacks to increase his total to 5.5. He finished last year with 4, so he's already surpassed that. He's on pace for 13? And I know there are a lot of people, Kayvon Thibodeau diehard supporters that are basking in the glory and dancing on the graves of everyone that called Thibodeau a bust. I don't know that I called Thibodeau a bust, but I did say he was trending towards a bust. I mean, I think everyone could agree with that. Looking at his stat lines through the first 3 or 4 games, where are you, dude? What are you doing? So yeah, he's coming around, and if we can get that for the rest of the season, we'll be in very good shape. That being said, dude, catch the ball. Oh my God, you couldn't get an easier pick 6 than that, and he dropped it. Sort of reminiscent of LT's, what would have been LT's picks, or LT did have the pick 6, but if Kayvon catches that and returns it, it definitely feels it's kind of in the same vein as LT's pick 6 against the Niners when Jim Burt knocked out Joe Montana in the playoffs, when we absolutely shellacked the Niners 49-3 in the 86 divisional playoff. What a moment that would have been for KT, kind of bittersweet. And it's got to make those plays if you expect to beat teams other than the Commanders. Leonard Williams picked up his first full sack of the season. He had a half sack against the Niners on September 21st. Yeah, I don't know that I'm still completely sold on Leo. I feel like I still need a little bit more from him, but this is a good start. Step in the right direction. And Bobby Okereke tied a season high with 11 tackles, 7 solo. Led the Giants for the 4th consecutive game. According to Next Gen Stats, he recorded 15 quarterback rushes against the Commanders and picked up a pressure on 4 of them with his 26.7% quarterback pressure rate. Led the team. Made his presence felt in the run game with 8 tackles on 19 total run defense snaps. No other Giant had more than 4 run tackles. So continuing to earn that contract. What a turnaround it's been for Bobby Okereke. Maybe it really is just a case of, just getting used to the system, getting familiar with not only the scheme, the plays, the calls, but your teammates. And I think him and Micah McFadden, a good 1-2 punch. Micah McFadden, 89.8 PFF grade versus the Commanders, which is first among all linebackers in week 7. And, PFF questionable at best. But my God, I think we found our interior linebacker core. All this time we'd been searching, guys right under our nose. And this defense is going to carry us. It has to carry us because the offense can't. So if we're going to win ball games, the defense has to play on this level, which is it tenable? I think if you can keep guys healthy, yeah, for sure. I think if you were to put us up against Miami again, are we going to give up as many points? Oof. Can we play at MetLife this time? And then, Miami goes out to Philadelphia and loses by 2 scores. So, but it did look like it was going to be more of a ball game towards the third quarter where they came within a score. They got that pick 6. But yeah, defense looking strong, down to get the friction on. Wink pulling some wizardry out of his hat, some sorcery. And again, it is the Commanders. The Bills have been struggling. The Seahawks were banged up. So you could make you could make the argument that the Giants defense hasn't turned a corner and that we've just been playing some favorable offenses. That being said, I mean, we'll get to the remaining schedule in a bit, but it's a couple favorable matchups coming up down the pike. So let's turn our attention to the offense. The Giants were outscored in the second half 7-0. This was their first victory in a game in which they did not score after halftime since September 2008. I believe that was the season opener when they won 16-7 against the then Redskins in a home game. I believe, was that the game that Brandon Jacobs truck sticked LaRon Landry? I believe so. That was like coming off the Super Bowl win. Yeah, possibly. Giants have not scored a second half point in 3 home games. Oh boy. Here we are, so worried and concerned about the first half production and scoring output and whatnot. And it turns out, yeah, second half, not much better. We got to just score more points. And, you know, we were en route to put the game out of hand and to score in the second half before Barkley fumbled, which rare occurrence. Tyrod Taylor completed 18 of 29 for 279, 2 touchdowns, 1 to Waller, a really sweet pass up the seam on third down, that was reminiscent of, you know, some are saying Eli to like a Larry Donnell up the seam. I'm thinking more of a Phil Simms to Mark Bavaro type situation. Regardless, a third down that we probably shouldn't have had. Thanks, Riverboat Ron, for accepting the penalty. But beautiful pass. Like, didn't have to thread the needle too much, but still, it was nice to see. And then his second touchdown pass is Saquon Barkley. Stepped up, evaded the rush. Good ball. Like, you know, that's a case where you're on the run and you could very easily not throw that ball accurately. And yet he did, and Saquon did the rest. No interceptions yet again. He has not thrown an interception in 80 attempts, making him one of 9 quarterbacks who did not throw a pick in their first 80 passes of the season. Passer rating 116.9. He was sacked 4 times, although it didn't necessarily feel like, it's a different vibe, different feeling. It didn't feel like a 4-sack game. I don't know. Again, he makes it look like he's getting pressured, but he doesn't look pressured. I don't know. He's just a smooth dude. I keep saying it, but he's also the first black quarterback to start and win a game in New York Giants franchise history. So congratulations to Tyrod Taylor for making history. He looks good in those threads, man. He looks good playing. He's back to the similar performance as what he was putting up with Buffalo when they went to the playoffs. So it's just nice to have him as our backup. You know, we talked a lot about quarterback controversy. You know, the last quarterback controversy the Giants had was Phil Simms versus Jeff Hostetler in 90, 91, 92. And I was a Phil Simms guy, was and still remain to this day a Phil Simms guy. So that was tough seeing Jeff Hostetler. It was like I begrudgingly forced myself to cheer for Jeff Hostetler in the playoffs. And obviously when he won the Super Bowl. But it was like, because I was such a diehard Phil Simms fan that I couldn't just enjoy the team's success. That being said, I was 10, dude. I was 10. And looking back on it, it's like I wish I would have appreciated and had been more grateful for Haas than I was. But it was like, this should have been Phil's Super Bowl. This should have been Phil's playoff run. This should have been Phil. And it's like, well, your team's still winning, and it's pretty cool. And embrace it. So that was a long ass quarterback controversy. It lasted for so goddamn long. You know, it does a number on the fans' psyche for sure. And then I can only imagine what it does on the psyche of the team. You know, not really knowing who you're dealing with week in and week out. So I still don't think we're in that territory yet. Tyrod's been playing with Saquon. Daniel Jones was not really playing with Saquon after the Arizona games. You know, as much as people like to downplay Justin Pugh, like people either, you know, we're fanatics. I get it. You know, we're not level-headed. You either think that Justin Pugh has sparked the renaissance for the offensive line, or you think that he has nothing to do with it and he's just as bad as all the rest. But the offensive line play has improved, and Tyrod Taylor has benefited from it. So if Jones is healthy, which they say he is, even though he's not cleared for contact. So it's like, how can you be healthy and not cleared for contact? You know what I'm saying? If he is cleared for contact, if he is healthy, if he does play against the Jets and stinks, There we go. At that point, it's like, boy, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think you're going to see a different Daniel Jones against the Jets. Now, would I be extra cautious? I'm leaning towards being extra cautious. It's like if he's healthy, great. And if he's clear for contact, great. But, would it hurt to get one more week of rehab and rest and all that stuff? Do I have the confidence in Tyrod Taylor to go out there and beat the Jets? Yeah, this is the beauty of having a good backup quarterback. Like, we need to embrace it and love it and welcome it into your lives, because we didn't have a good backup quarterback for so long. I'm going to go on a limb and say that Tyrod Taylor, best backup Giants quarterback since Jeff Hostetler. Is that fair to say? Yes. I mean, I don't know what the 90s were just like. Tough sledding. It's like Danny Cannell was the backup and became the starter. I don't know. But maybe you'd say David Carr when he was backing up Eli, but he didn't get a ton of opportunities, right? So I'd have to go Tyrod Taylor's best backup quarterback since Jeff Hostetler. It's a good, it's champagne problems, right? It's a good problem to have. I'd rather have this than Jake Fromm or fucking Mike Glennon, because neither of those dudes would have beat the Commanders or even put up a fight against the Bills. So thank God for Tyrod Taylor. Thank God for Tyrod. I'm on board. I love him, and I'm glad that he's part of the team. And we're now at the point where you have two good quarterbacks, and you almost at the point where you could start either one, and you feel good about your chances to win. So I think it's a good problem to have. Again, probably not great for the fan psyche, probably not great for the team psyche, and I don't know how long that can last because it might wear thin. But just knowing that you could start either one, it's got to, at least from the coach's standpoint, has to bring you some sort of relief. Giants had 6 plays that gained 20 or more yards against Washington, their highest total since they had 8 in an overtime win against New Orleans in early October 2021. That was the game where I really thought that the 2021 Giants turned it around, and this was the springboard into success. And I was dead wrong. The Giants had 5 receivers with a reception of at least 22 yards for the first time since the overtime victory against the Saints in October 3rd, 2021. I mean, that game in October 2021, everything was clicking. Not the whole game. I think it was the second half, maybe in the fourth quarter. But it was like Galladay's getting involved, Kadarius Toney, Saquon Barkley, Shep. I mean, it was like everyone's getting involved, and it was like, oh my God, our offense is unstoppable. Like, if this is what our offense can do and can be, we're going to Super Bowl. And no, not even close. So Jalen Hyatt is getting more playing time, and he's rewarding that decision with some explosive plays. He has 4 catches of 25 plus air yards this season. Only 7 other receivers this season have accomplished that. Among them on the list, A.J. Brown, Stephon Diggs, and Tyreek Hill. So that's pretty elite company to be in. And he's done all that on just 14 targets. So crazy that I think most defenses and most teams, like Washington, just, I guess, poorly coached. Judging by what Jonathan Allen said in the post-game press conference, where he's like, I'm tired of this shit. It doesn't, I don't know if it's a personnel problem for the Washington Commanders. I really do think it's a coaching thing. And to know that Jalen Hyatt has been painted as a one-dimensional receiver that can only go vert and deep, and yet you don't defend that. It's kind of misfire on their part. So, but I mean, that's you see what that can do. I mean, Tyro with a beautiful ball both times down the right sideline, and Hyatt picking up big yardage, big chunks. You can see what that does. Kind of loosens up the defense, makes them not as confident in their play calling and whatnot. And stretch the D, dude. That was the whole game plan, or at least the strategy that I thought that I was so hype about entering the season, is like Slayton and Hyatt. Oh, brother. They're going to be stretching the field, and then you just have Darren Waller chilling out underneath, who can pick up, 9, 10, 11 yards a catch. So feels like we're starting to get into the flow of things with that. Speaking of Darren Waller, he led the Giants with 7 catches for a season high 98 yards. His first touchdown as a New York Football Giant. Touchdown capped an 88-yard drive, which was the longest since a 97-yard series at Washington, December 18th, 2022. I wasn't kidding about these stats and these notes. A lot of first time since the last time we played Washington. That touchdown broke 2 long streaks. We had not scored an offensive touchdown. Since Matt Breida's 8-yard run in the third quarter at San Francisco on September 21st, when we pulled within 5, we thought, do you believe in miracles? And we went 220 minutes and 42 seconds of game time, 14 quarters, 38 possessions, 252 plays between offensive touchdowns. And it was even longer than that for a passing touchdown. You want to talk about California drought of epic proportions. That's a drought and a half times 5, bruh. Saquon Barkley, he led the Giants with 77 yards and 21 carries, added 3 catches for 41 yards. Touchdown was Barkley's 3rd overall and 2nd on a reception, both team highs, which is a little bonkers considering he's missed the past how many games? He did lose the 4th quarter fumble that we talked about. It was just the 5th time he's fumbled and the 2nd time he's lost one in almost 1,300 career touches. I mean, we take it for granted. We really do that he's secure with the ball 99% of the time. 5th time, 2nd time he's lost one in 1,300 career touches. The guy just simply does not fumble. So honestly, I'm not going to get on him for this, especially considering the fact that he took a hit, I want to say earlier in the game when Cody Barton was still in the game, because I think Cody Barton left with an injury. I think it was on that same play where he knocks Saquon out of bounds and Saquon comes up kind of shaking his left arm. He fucked up his elbow or something on that play, and he had to wear a big sleeve after that. And you have to think that contributed to him fumbling. So I'm not gonna get on him for that. I'm not gonna overreact to that. Sorry. Not sorry. Barkley has the fewest fumbles among the 12 active players who have handled the ball at least that many times. So Giants had 5 different starting offensive line combinations, tied for the most in the NFL entering week 7. And that's a major reason for the woes, right? It's the durability factor. You look at the probably our best offensive line ever ? With David Deal, Sean O'Hara, Rich Seibert. All those dudes played 100 plus consecutive games without missing one, or they rarely missed games, until later on in the end of their career. But we just haven't had the same 5 dudes start on the offensive line for more than a week. I know that other teams have injuries on the offensive line, and I know it doesn't impact them as much, but when you have this many injuries and this much turnover on your offensive line, it has to affect the performance. Tyree Phillips was pulled off the Eagles practice squad on Tuesday and started. Literally pulled a Justin Pugh straight off the couch, dude. Or straight off the practice squad, I should say. Still flummoxed as to why he was released and cut after playing 12 games for us last year and outplaying Matt Parrott, who just recently went on the IR. So it looks like Tyree Phillips is secure on the roster, which is great for when Neal comes back and Thomas comes back. And Mark Lewinsky. We shredded this dude, said we want to run him out of town, and for good reason. He was atrocious, lost his job, and then was forced back into the lineup due to injuries. He posted an 83.3 PFF pass blocking grade, 82.3 points higher than his week 1 pass blocking grade. In his last 2 games, he's had 79 pass blocking snaps, and only 1 pressure allowed, 0 sacks allowed. So sometimes you just have to light a fire under a player's ass, no matter how old they be. So, wouldn't it be nice if Mark Lewinsky came into form, came into shape, and then you've gone from now a dearth of talent on the offensive line where it's like you don't have anybody to, Andrew Thomas is coming back, Evan Neal's coming back. Justin Pugh's in the mix? Did we put him at guard? Did we put him at tackle? You have some options there. So we should have scored 21 points or at least 17, at least 20 points. Graham Gano had the missed field goal from 42 yards. The wind was a bitch, so I'm not going to. He's Mr. Automatic, and he can only do so much, especially in like severe conditions. So it sucks, but I'm not going to crucify him for it. So there's that. There's the fumble by Barkley. I think we should have won this game handily instead of it coming down to the last possession like it did in Washington last year. Leonard Williams blocked Joey Sly's 27-yard field goal attempt in the fourth quarter. It was our first block since October 15, 2017, when Kerry Wynn blocked Brandon McManus's 53-yard try in Denver when we upset them 23-10. It ends the NFL's longest active streak of opposing field goal attempts without a block. It's the first block of his 9-year career. Huge. So yeah, Leonard Williams having a little bit of a second wind, looking like maybe he's coming into form. I thought when they rattled off the stat on the broadcast that they were going to say that the last blocked field goal was the JPP blocked field goal. The last Giants player to accomplish the feat of having a field goal block and a sack in the same game was JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul, at Dallas on December 11th, 2011. Not only a game-saving block, a season-saving block. JPP had 2 sacks among his team-leading 8 tackles, and his block of Dan Bailey's 47-yard field goal attempt with 1 second left to preserve the Giants' 37-34 victory. I mean, that was the beginning, pretty much, of like, oh boy, here we go. We got this. We're unstoppable. It's 2007 all over again. Giants used 3 punt returners. Eric Gray is, I don't think he's a punt returner. I don't know. Call me crazy. He had 1 return, a fair catch before leaving with a calf injury. He got bent over backwards on that one that he muffed. Got replaced by Sterling Shepard, who then gained 10 yards on 3 runbacks, but muffed a punt in the third quarter, leading to Washington's only touchdown. So everyone's saying, Shep's not doing anything. Throw him back there. Maybe not. And then Darius Slayton was called on to return punts for the first time in his 5-year career and had 1 fair catch. And he got a nice little Brooklyn Bronx cheer, sarcastic cheer. We had 8 punts. It was our highest total under Daboll. Previous high was 7 in a 2002 home game versus Washington that ended in 2020 tie. Kind of a side note, we went to the playoffs that year, correct? Under Fossil. That was the when we lost the 49ers in San Francisco, biggest blown lead in the playoffs in franchise history. 1997, we tied with the Washington Commanders and we went to the playoffs, won the division and went to the playoffs. And then 2022, we tied with the Washington Commanders and went to the playoffs. So I'm okay if we tie them next time in Washington. Feels like a good omen. Dory Jackson was inactive for the first time this season with neck injury, which he sustained last week in Buffalo, which is odd because he came back into that game. So crazy that he's allowed back in that game, not allowed to play in this game. Reminiscent of Daniel Jones when he suffered the neck injury. So I'm like, people are like, we're going to get a Dory back. And it's like, we're going to get a Dory back. Like, I don't know that he's that much of an upgrade anymore. Trey Hawkins got the start over Jackson or for Jackson. He's played just 25 defensive snaps in the previous 3 games after logging 148 in the first 3. So yeah, quite the fall off from Trey. So with the punt return issues and the problems, and that's the Giants Commanders recap. You're welcome. With the punt return problems, we went out and signed special teams ace Gunnar Olszewski. Definitely butchered that. Signed to the practice squad. He was a first-team All-Pro with the Patriots in 2020. Someone posted a fuck it Gunnar Olszewski highlights, and it was all his fuck-ups with the Steelers that ended up getting him cut or waived or whatever. So, yeah, anything's better than nothing, I guess. Can we just put all 11 guys on the line, try to block every punt? I don't know. With Eric Gray's injury and Gary Brightwell also having a hamstring injury, we went out and signed running back just Sean Corbin from the, I think, Carolina's practice squad. And then we also signed outside linebacker Justin Hollins to the practice squad, which is kind of interesting. And then we claimed running back Deion Jackson off waivers from Cleveland, which they're having all kinds of running back issues over there. They lost Chubb for the season, and then what's his face? The guy I have on my friggin' fantasy team, Ford, is now doubtful. So now they have Pierre Strong. I think he's now starting.